just and on the unjust. In other words, God is very merciful. We've quoted this verse from Ezekiel 33 many times. God has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. And you remember the verse in, I think it's in Luke, where God is looking at Jerusalem, which was under his wrath, and he wept over Jerusalem because of but nevertheless, he still has brought them under judgment, which is, the judgment is the same for everyone. The wages of sin is death. And so we know we have a God who, in his judgment, is very, very gracious. Very gracious. We read language in the Bible that talks about, I will have vengeance, my anger is going to be poured out upon them, and so on. And this is all to instill in us how that it's still a very serious matter when you're under the judgment of God. But actually, when we finally see the actuality of it, we find God has no pleasure in it. And he wept over Jerusalem, God, eternal God, weeping over Jerusalem that is under his wrath. And when we look at the punishment that God is putting on the unsaved, the old idea that is completely wrong, that when we're unsaved, we're going to go into a fiery torment forever and ever and be punished and punished and punished and punished. We remember a long time ago, let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 25. Deuteronomy chapter 25. Now bear in mind that the law of God that's here written in the Bible is God's law which he himself keeps. God does not have two laws, one that he follows and one that we follow. There's only one law of God. And in chapter 25, he says, if there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. To justify the righteous, in other words, if they're not guilty, they are to acquit them, they are to set them free. And if they're guilty, then they have to face the penalty. Now, what is the penalty? And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his faults, by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above that with many stripes, then thy brother will seem vile unto thee. In other words, that means that we are created in the image of God, and you cannot just punish it. If God's sense of justice was our sense of justice, and someone has been particularly wicked, particularly against one of your family or something, you'd say, boy, we're really going to get even with that person. We're going to beat him and beat him and beat him until he's a bloody pulp. And because in our anger, this is exactly what we would do because we just we're unsaved man. We're people who don't have the understanding of the righteousness of God.